My name is Ava Delaney, 32 years old. I didn't wake up planning to start a war with my family. I just wanted a quiet morning, coffee hot enough to sting my lip, inbox manageable, and the kind of silence that doesn't ask for anything. Then my phone buzzed. Send me $1,600 for prom. Mom says, you have plenty. No greeting, no hi auntie, just Caleb, my sister Melanie's 17-year-old golden child, talking to me like I'm the family ATM with a blinking balance sign. I read it twice because the second sentence cut colder than the first. Mom says, you have plenty. So it wasn't just Caleb's nerve. It was Melanie's voice ventriloquized through him. I could afford it. That wasn't the point. The point was the assumption, the entitlement, soft as rod and twice as patient. Last year, I'd quietly paid Caleb's first-year college tuition, $15,000, after the family chorus begged for a one-time favor. Mom, our uncle, even Drew, Melanie's husband, lined up like a choir singing the same note. He just needs a fresh start. You can help. Why wouldn't you? I wrote the check. I told no one. Cost me, that wasn't money. I typed back one sentence. Work for it. No explanation, no apology. I hit send and set the phone down like a pot that had finally stopped boiling. For the first time in years, I felt the heat leave my hand. 5 minutes later, Melanie texted me herself. No hello, no context, just pay or you're cut off. Cut off from what? Her performance reviews? Her seasonal cold shoulders? I stared at the threat and felt something click into place. In my head, a small, precise gear engaging. It wasn't anger, it was clarity. Her leverage had always been noise. I didn't have to listen. That night, I logged into my bank and canceled the autopay I had been covering for their mortgage. 6 months of payments I never questioned after she told me Drew had emergency surgery and couldn't work. I never saw a hospital bill. I never asked. That was our rhythm. Melanie needed, I gave, like a metronome. Tick, pay, tick, forgive, tick, pretend I wasn't exhausted. At 8:05 a.m., my phone was a hornet's nest. 5 missed calls, Melanie, Drew, even one from Mom. Then the texts swarmed in, confusion, insult, pity, and contempt dressed in perfume. Caleb called me a fake aunt who didn't support dreams. Melanie accused me of abandoning family. Drew, always polite, asked if there had been a mistake. I didn't respond. I put the phone face down and finished my coffee. Steam curled in the kitchen window like a ribbon untying itself. By lunchtime, Melanie fired her first public shot, a Facebook status, masterclass in vague venom. Funny how people with the most to give are the first to withhold. Betrayal always comes from those closest. Lesson learned. Dozens of likes. Heart emojis. You deserve better, babe. The usual backup dancers. One comment from a woman I didn't recognize. Family is just a word. Protect your peace. I almost laughed. None of them knew who she meant, but I did. And so did my cousin Rachel, who screenshotted it to me with a popcorn emoji. And guess who didn't get their prom money? I didn't bite. Not publicly, not privately. I have learned that responding to a fire doesn't always put it out. Sometimes it just teaches the flames your name. That afternoon, Melanie escalated to a group text, the entire family. It's heartbreaking how easily some people throw you away when they're done using you for their ego. I hope no one else gets abandoned like I have. I waited, phone in my palm, curious how many would march behind her drum. The chat bubble blinked, then nothing. Not one reply. Not from our aunts, not from our cousins, not from anyone. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt still, like a lake after a storm where the debris is finally visible. My boyfriend Lucas texted from a patient consult. He's a PT, asking if I was okay. I told him it was just family weather. He replied with a photo of the clinic coffee he always complains about, captioned, "We'll trade the swamp water for dinner with you." I smiled. Then I saw another notification. Mia, Lucas's ex, who still orbits our friend group like a slow satellite, had left a sly comment on Melanie's post. Some people love the spotlight more than they love people. Ambiguous enough to wound anyone within earshot. I almost laughed. None of them knew who she meant, but I did. I blocked the urge to clap back. This is not your fight. Not anymore. Near dusk, Mom called. She didn't ask how I was. She didn't ask what happened. She sighed into the receiver like someone sitting on the edge of a bed and said, "Melanie is very upset. She says you humiliated her in front of Caleb and that this has caused a huge rift between him and Drew." "What humiliation?" I said. "I told her son to earn his prom money." "I don't want to be in the middle," Mom murmured. "I just wish you two would stop fighting." But this wasn't a fight. Fights happen between equals. This was me drawing a line and Melanie throwing herself against it. "I paid Caleb's entire freshman year," I said quietly. "I don't have more to give." For a moment, there was only breath. Then Mom said something I didn't expect. "You've done enough, but she's going through a lot." It sounded like sympathy, but what I heard was a hairline crack in armor that had always been impenetrable when it came to Melanie. A seam of light. I didn't press it. Some realizations need to bloom alone. After we hung up, I stood in the kitchen and listened to the refrigerator hum. I thought about how many times I'd rewritten the past for Melanie so the present would cost me less. How often I'd called exploitation family. Here's the part I hadn't told anyone. Not Lucas, not Mom, not even Rachel. A month ago, Melanie and I had a call that curdled. What began as a request for textbook money for Caleb soured into a monologue where she insulted everyone. Drew, our cousins, even Mom, calling her a burden who was only useful for holidays and casseroles. I didn't record it to use it. I recorded it because I couldn't believe I was hearing it, and I needed to know if my memory would later protect her. When she raged, she also slipped, mentioning a man she'd been talking to, someone who actually listens, someone from her gym. She laughed when I asked if it was serious. "It's just air," she said. "I deserve air." Air has a way of feeding fires. I didn't plan to tell Drew. For years, I told myself it wasn't my place. But when she called me the enemy of the family, when she hoisted the megaphone of social media to paint me as a villain after I bankrolled her life, I felt the weight of a truth I might one day have to set down between us. Not to punish her, to stop her from rewriting reality so completely that everyone got burned. My phone lit again, a voicemail from Drew. Voice careful and steady. "Hey, Eva, I saw the autopay didn't go through. Is everything okay?" He deserved an answer. He deserved the truth. I didn't call him back. Not yet. Not because I wasn't sure, but because I wanted to be sure I wasn't acting out in spite. Spite is loud and brief. Truth is quiet and permanent. I needed to know which one was steering my hand. Outside, the neighborhood dimmed, porch lights blinking on like watchful eyes. I put my phone on the counter, face up this time. I made dinner for one and ate standing, as if sitting down would make everything too real. When I was done, I washed the plate until it squeaked, then dried it to a clean shine. I don't know what tomorrow will ask of me. I only know the rhythm has changed. The metronome is broken. And somewhere in the dark, I can hear the house of cards beginning to rearrange itself. Quieter than an apology, louder than a lie. The last thing I did before bed was open my banking app, scroll past the canceled autopay, and close it again. a gesture as simple and final as a door clicking shut. On my nightstand, my phone buzzed once more. A new text from Melanie. "You think this is over? You made yourself the enemy of the family." If that's the story she needs to tell, she can keep it. I turned the phone face down and the room went dark, the kind of dark that felt like final rest. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was silent for the first time in days. No calls, no accusations, no pity posts with vague Bible verses, just quiet. But quiet doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it's just the breath before the next storm. By mid-afternoon, it came, a voicemail from Drew, his tone steady, polite as always. "Hey Ava, I saw the autopay didn't go through. Is everything okay?" That was Drew in a nutshell, calm even when the floor was splitting under him. He didn't sound angry, just lost, like a man who realized too late he'd been living in someone else's story. I replayed the voicemail twice, coffee untouched beside me. I knew what I was holding, not money, but knowledge, a truth that could scorch the whole landscape if I let it. For years, I had chosen silence. But after Melanie's threats, her Facebook martyrdom, and that group text ambush, something inside me had shifted. I didn't want revenge. I wanted gravity, something real enough to stop her spinning lies. Still, I waited until evening before I called Drew back. When he answered, his voice was tight, almost mechanical. "So the autopay." "I canceled it," I said. "No apology, just fact. I've been paying it for months. It's not my job anymore." There was a pause, that small, loaded silence when someone decides how honest they're willing to be. He finally said, "I get it. I didn't realize how much pressure Melanie was putting on you. She made it sound like you offered." "That's her specialty," I said softly, rewriting generosity as obligation. He exhaled, ragged at the edges. "Then, is there something else I should know?" And there it was, the moment I had been dreading and expecting in equal measure. "Yes," I said carefully, "but I'm not sure it should come from me." "What does that mean?" "It means there are things she said and done that aren't my secrets to keep anymore. I think you should ask her about the night she said she was at yoga and about the guy from her gym." The silence on the other end was thick enough to taste. When Drew finally spoke, his voice had changed, lower, steadier, stripped of disbelief. "Thank you." He didn't ask for proof. He didn't need to. Some truths live in the pause after the sentence, not the sentence itself. We hung up without goodbyes. An hour later, Melanie called me 5 times in a row. I didn't answer. Then the text came in rapid bursts. "What did you say to Drew? Why are you doing this? You don't know the whole story. You just blew up my life. Are you happy now?" I stared at the screen until her words blurred together. For the first time in our lives, Melanie wasn't performing. She was panicking. I didn't reply. Some silences weigh more than any sentence could ever. That night, my cousin Rachel called me, whispering like she was sharing state secrets. "So Drew knows." "How?" I asked, playing dumb. "Because Melanie's been calling everyone in tears, said you turned him against her. Ava, she sounds terrified." "Maybe she should be," I said quietly. For once, Rachel didn't laugh. "You did the right thing." Did I? The question hummed inside me long after we hung up. Right and wrong felt like slippery concepts in families like ours. They bent depending on who was crying louder. The next morning, I woke to an inbox flooded with messages I hadn't expected. Not just from Melanie, but from cousins, friends, even Caleb. Everyone was spinning in the orbit of her panic. her version of events leaking like water from a broken dam. I didn't reply to a single one. Silence had become my shield. For months, my voice had been drowned out by manipulation, excuses, and guilt trips. Today, I finally realized I didn't owe anyone a performance. By afternoon, Drew texted. Simple, precise. Can we meet? There are things I need to clarify before talking to anyone else. I hesitated. For years, I had feared these conversations, worried about emotional explosions or misunderstandings. But I understood now that truth doesn't beg, it asserts. We met at the quiet coffee shop we used to go to in college. Drew arrived first, sitting with that calm, patient air he always carried. When I walked in, he smiled faintly, the kind of smile that says, "We'll handle this without drama." We talked for hours. Not about Melanie's manipulations, not about past payments, not even about the family fallout. We talked about facts, dates, and actions, things that couldn't be twisted. Finally, he leaned back and said, "I get it now. And I believe you." That phrase hit harder than I expected. Not disbelief, not shock, just belief. After years of proving myself to people who never acknowledged it, someone finally saw clearly. I left the coffee shop lighter than I have felt in years. Not because the storm was over, it wasn't, but because I had found a foothold. I had proven to myself that standing up for boundaries doesn't make you selfish, it makes you human. Later that evening, Melanie sent one last text. Short, sharp. "You think this ends here? It's far from over." I read it, then deleted it. Her threat had no power over me anymore. Power lies in choosing when to engage and when to walk away. I chose the latter. That night, I wrote in my journal for the first time in months. I wrote about boundaries, about truth, about self-respect. I wrote about finally understanding that love without limits is dangerous, and generosity without reciprocity is a trap. I closed the journal and turned off the lamp. For the first time in years, I slept without hearing the echo of manipulation. Morning came, soft and unassuming. I didn't check my phone first. I didn't think about debts or drama. I simply breathed, feeling the kind of freedom that can't be measured in money or gestures. Melanie's story would continue. She would tell it, twist it, spin it, but I had reclaimed mine, and that was enough. Sometimes the greatest victories aren't the ones you broadcast. They are the quiet ones where you draw a line, hold it, and finally walk away. I had done that. And for the first time, the weight lifted.